Nephilim, fallen angels, Epstein Island. What could all of these things potentially have in common? I'm about to let you know right now. Thank you, every single one of you who are joining me today. I am your boy DJ Revelations, and I'm here to share a reaction video with you regarding stuff about Epstein Island. I know some of you are probably exhausted about hearing about this, but for those of you who know me and we interact at a personal level, you know that this is stuff that I'm constantly always talking about. Not necessarily about Epstein Island, but I'm talking about, fallen angels and stuff like that. These are topics that actually fascinate me. They fascinate me so much, and I feel like I want to share it to a broader audience, whoever tunes in. And regarding that, thank you so much for every single one of you who has subscribed to the channel recently. Truly grateful for every single one of you. If you have not, please subscribe to the channel. If these are topics that you want to hear more about, let me know in the comment section, all right? Also, make sure you like the video and share it with somebody who you think might find value in this, all right? Cool, let's get into it. So the video that we're going to be reacting to right now is by a YouTube content creator, Christian man called Nelson Walters, right? I'm just reacting to the video. I don't know much about the guy personally who made the video, but I found it very, very intriguing. It aligns with a lot of the things that I believe and what could have been happening at that island that the news would never tell you because, the media is controlled by the powers that be. So they will never tell you about the actual behind the scenes things that power their world. Okay, so let's get right into this without further ado, further ado, further, whatever. You know what I mean. I sped the video up a little bit, by the way, just so that way we can get through it a little quicker, right?
What I'm about to tell you is not what the media wants you to hear. It's not about leaked emails or flight logs or which powerful men visited Epstein Island. Those things matter, and we're going to talk about them, but they're just surface level symptoms of something far older, far darker, and more coordinated than anyone in the media is willing to say. Because the real question isn't what happened on the island, it's who was behind it. And I'm not talking about Epstein, I'm not talking about global elites like Trump or Clinton, and I'm not talking about intelligence agencies like the CIA or even investment bankers. I'm talking about what the Bible calls principalities, powers, the rulers of the darkness of this age, spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. Epstein Island may not have simply been a den of abuse. It may have been an ancient high place, a ritual center created by fallen angels, fallen angelic beings, to give them access and influence.
Sorry, that kind of reminds me of the backdrop of Mortal Kombat. If you watch, I think it was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. There was like a scene where they were somewhere like this. Could that actually be the place that they used in the movie? I don't know.
Influence over powerful men. And if that sounds extreme, stay with me, because by the time we reach Revelation 17 and explain it, the puzzle pieces will just all lock into place, and you'll see the link between this and the end times and something it calls Mystery Babylon. And when you see how, you're going to be utterly amazed. I promise you, this is going to be an eye-opening video. Have you seen the Epstein Temple, located on the highest point of the island? If this island was just about the abuse of young women, what in the world was that doing there? Perched on the highest point of Little St. James Island, the Epstein Temple stands out like a ceremonial high place from ancient Canaan. The golden dome is the most striking element of the temple, a polished, gleaming cap that mirrors the design of the Dome of the Rock. Beneath the dome, the structure is wrapped in blue and white horizontal stripes, a design nearly identical to old Mesopotamian shrines honoring Ishtar, also called Astarte, the goddess of sexual ritual and war.
Did y'all just hear that? Did y'all just hear that? Okay, so there was more going on this island that the news are willing to tell you, right? People think it was just about the essay that was happening to these women. Yes, that was happening, and it was very unfortunate that this happened to those ladies. But why was it a part of something deeper? Why they were being taken there, and this could be a reason why, right? It could be that they were being forced to perform in these rituals. I mean, there's no coincidence that this guy's temple looked the way it did, right? Why was there even a temple in the first place, right? You wouldn't have a temple if you weren't doing something ceremonial or ritualistic in there, right?
On the patio surrounding the temple lie these strange letters and symbols, not from modern alphabets, but markings that resemble Sumerian cuneiform and occult signals. Survivors have described inscriptions inside that seem to vibrate with meaning they couldn't understand, as though they belonged to an older world, speaking through the stones themselves.
Okay, so the news will never tell you that people saw symbols and stuff inside the temple, right? Have they? I personally have not come across anyone really talking about what was inside. But if there are victims, I please somebody share down below a link in the comments, right? If you came across a video with any of the victims talking about what they saw inside. But allegedly, this is what they had seen, some of the victims, right? Some weird symbols and writings that seem ancient, perhaps. I mean, if you see symbols that you don't really know, it would be easy to think it's ancient, but, from Sumerian times, possible.
Yet the most disturbing aspect lies not above, but below. Multiple witnesses have described deep underground tunnels beneath this temple, descending through elevators hidden within the hilltop foundation. These corridors reportedly lead to sealed chambers, ritual rooms, and stone thrones, arranged in a circle, 12 of them, by the way. Spaces carved into the bedrock where unspeakable things occurred. Survivors consistently spoke of an overwhelming dread in these tunnels, as though the darkness itself were alive. That is what the media doesn't want to talk about. But we will. This is Bible teacher Nelson Walters, and this place was definitely not just about the abuse of young women, but something much more evil, if that were even possible. But the abuse was just part of it. And for this video, we need to give a shout out to Tim Martin, a member of our community. When survivors say they stepped onto Little St. James and felt a heavy, oppressive darkness, that's not normal. That's not psychological. That's not stress. This is what the Bible calls territorial spirits, places ruled by ancient beings. It's the same feeling I had when I was on mission in Africa and I visited the point of no return, the fort where slaves were taken onto ships, never to return to Africa again. It was a place of unspeakable evil, and it was very uncomfortable to be there.
Can you imagine revisiting? Like, I think in Ghana, there's a place like this. Maybe this is where he went in Ghana, but just I can only imagine how heavy the presence must be of something evil for real, right? And the port where they were actually taking people from their land, right, during the times of slavery. So it makes sense, right? How this could be relatable, right? That heavy presence that lingers around, right? So I have watched other videos where they said that there were tunnels, right, on Epstein Island, right? So could be.
And when you examine the architecture of Epstein's temple, the high elevation, the directional alignments, the cult symbolism of it there, all of it signals one thing. This place was
Yeah, like what the heck are those things that are on top of the temple itself, right? That's very, very odd.
not built for people. It was built for the gods of the nations. Now, these are not false gods, as you've been told possibly in your church. Rather, they were fallen angels, masquerading as gods. Exactly as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10:20, the things the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons. And that brings us to something most Christians overlook. In Daniel 10, an angel comes to Daniel and says something absolutely stunning. The prince of the kingdom of Persia resisted me for 21 days. Then the prince of Greece will come. Daniel 10:13 and 20.
Did you guys check this out? I don't know why even in AI they always make angels white. Like, jeez, man, like we need to get away from this. But anyway, that's another topic. But that is such a fascinating story in the Bible to me. Is in the book of Daniel, there was a time in the story that they're saying that the angel was fighting with the principality of Persia, like the prince of Persia. Like that is mind-boggling to me, and it made me think. I'm of the belief now that every nation, right? This is Lucifer's playground, right? So I believe that every nation on earth has a principality that is assigned to govern and influence what goes on in that country, right? And unfortunately, I maybe there could be an angel that's pushing back on the evil, and then there's a fallen angel that's actually in control of that nation, which is the permission that God has given to these principalities, right, to govern, because it is what it is.
These weren't human princes. Humans can't engage angels.
Sorry, so just imagine like what's currently happening right now with the war in Iran. Could this be something that's actually happening in the spiritual realm, right? Where once again, God is pushing against the Prince of Persia, right? To some people, they might think it's very controversial because it's Trump and this and that, and they despise the fact that Trump's name is even involved in this war, right? But please dare to think outside of the box, outside of your political spectrum, and think of it from a spiritual perspective that it's good versus evil at all times. And I'm not saying that the forces pushing against Iran are forces of good, but the forces that are there that are being fought against are definitely not good.
In direct combat, these were fallen angel rulers assigned over the nations, a prince of Persia and a prince of Greece. Real beings, territorial principalities, supernatural powers influencing kings, cultures, geopolitical movements. Let that sink in. Perhaps every nation has a spiritual prince, a fallen angel assigned to influence the rulers of that land. They control systems, shape ideologies, pull political strings, and they do it through compromised leaders. Is there a Prince of America, Britain, and Saudi Arabia? Is that what Epstein Island was all about?
I 100% believe that there is a principality over all of the world leading countries, especially, the US, Canada, and Britain, stuff like that, Like, I truly, truly do believe that in Mexico. Can you imagine the principality over Mexico with the amount of open and blatant worship of Santa Muerte, the blatant worship of Satan himself, right? And in Mexico, it's brutally obvious, right?
Compromising and empowering leaders to do the will of the fallen angel overlords of this planet. And this is where Epstein Island becomes much more than a crime scene. It becomes a strategic access point for those dark powers to control this world. All right, so how do fallen angels control political leaders, you're saying? Come on, Nelson. Well, people imagine demons as these little red creatures sitting on their shoulders. No, they are ancient, cosmic rulers, more powerful than human imagination can tell, who were likely controlling the nations, your nation and my nation, potentially from this site. This is why pagan kings in the Old Testament performed all those horrific rituals like child sacrifice, not because they enjoyed them, but because they believed correctly that these acts gave them supernatural power and influence from the fallen angels. So when extremely powerful political, financial, and media leaders fly across the world to gather on a remote island with a temple on a high place, don't think for a minute the enemy wastes such an opportunity. Fallen angels influence nations by influencing the men who lead the nations. Let me say that again because it is so important. It is critically important. And most people are not hearing this from their churches. Fallen angels influence nations by influencing the men who lead them.
Okay, please take that in. I've been of the belief of this. I've just never really heard somebody actually bring it to life, where they actually say it. Fallen angels influence world leaders, they influence politics. Why do you think a lot, if not most, politics are never to help the people, but are more to oppress its citizens, right? It has nothing to do with people. Yes, it has to do with money and this and that, but the root of it is they are being influenced by these influences, right? These unseen forces. And I personally believe that these world leaders have access, like direct access to these fallen angels, right? Where they can see them, they can talk to them.
Is it a surprise that the names Clinton and Trump appear on those lists? The same way the Prince of Persia influenced the Persian Empire, the same way the Prince of Greece steered Greek power. Those same beings may be influencing the modern world through the elite who have allowed the doors to be opened to them. Might the Prince of America be influencing our presidents from there, and in exchange, granting them victory in elections? And in exchange are those same men doing the bidding of the fallen angel principalities.
I 100% believe this. Like, there is absolutely no way that the USA, especially, doesn't have a major principality ruling over it, right? The whole nation was founded on Masonic principles, okay? Freemasonry, I don't care what anybody says. Like, some people say they have family members that are Freemasons and there's nothing, it's conspiracy. Okay. Why would they tell you that? Even if they are your family, they swore secrecy to what it is that they're actually learning and studying in that belief, right? Or in that club. But the USA is full of secret societies, Skull and Bones, the Demoulet, like all of these different things, right? There's even all the fraternities, right? All the Greek fraternities. A lot of people find this controversial, especially in the church, because there are people that say they're Christians, but they've joined fraternities. These fraternities are all linked to Greek gods, right? Or Greek fallen angels that they are aligned with, right? They say, oh, they joined these fraternities because um, they're just trying to get influence, right? But or networking, right, for better jobs one day and stuff. But this goes beyond that. You're networking, you're practicing being a part of the system, right? The higher up you go, the more you're willing to compromise, especially if you're in politics, right? So,
Hey, you say, Nelson, that sounds like selling your soul to the devil. Yes, it is exactly that. Was Epstein just a front man? Well, let's look at the scope of his network. Presidents, prime ministers, tech billionaires, royal family members, media tycoons, intelligence officers, and global financial elites. This isn't a blackmail operation. This is a hierarchy. These people rule the world. They're a priesthood. And they were engaging a system designed to compromise men at the highest levels and bind them into a spiritual contract that they could never walk away from. It was selling your soul to the devil. The island becomes the modern version to places like Mount Carmel, Mount Hermon, or the high places of Baal. Blood and sexual immorality are the two core pillars of ancient pagan worship. Epstein didn't invent anything. He was simply the latest purveyor of the old religion. And he's the one that got caught. The religion of the Watchers, the religion of Babylon, the religion that never died. It just simply went underground. Think about this. What if the reason the world's most powerful men seem to act in unison, even across nations, ideologies, and political divides, is because they're all being influenced by the same supernatural hierarchy? Not through emails, not through secret meetings, but through the same spiritual entities that control them. True, this would explain why policies across nations move in coordinated patterns, why global leaders all attend the same occult-rooted gatherings, why moral corruption is almost universal in elite circles, and why certain political decisions seem irrational or even destructive of their nations, and why no one in power ever exposes the systems.
You see that right there, people? Like, we can be fighting left and right, conservative, liberal, whatever ideology you follow. This is bigger than that, right? These systems were created for that very reason, for division. I've personally given up on politics because I think that what the Bible shows us is deeper than what we're seeing on TV. Like, yes, we can have influence. Yes, we can, the light of God brings change to the world. We still have an opportunity to do good. Yes, 100%. The powers that be, though, they have an agenda. It's a collective agenda, right? I'm of the belief that the book of Revelation in the Bible talks about, the Antichrist will appear one day. Well, this is the system that'll bring him to power one day, right? It's not a coincidence that all of this is happening. If you don't believe in God, if you're an atheist, if you believe in a different religion, it's up to you. I respect that. But read what the Bible says about end times, and you'd be shocked with what you find, right? And especially how it correlates with what we're watching here.
It's because they're all bound to it. So is this over now? Is Epstein Island finished? No, no. The power simply shifted to another location that we don't know of yet, because the network isn't physical, it's spiritual. Now it's time to talk about Revelation 17. Now let's let the Bible tie it all together. Revelation 17 describes a mysterious woman seated on a scarlet beast, drunk with the blood of the saints. She's called Mystery Babylon, the mother of prostitutes and abominations of the earth. This isn't merely a city, as many claim, Jerusalem, Saudi Arabia, New York. It's a network of cities, a network of national capitals ruled by spirits, fallen angelic principalities that have influenced kings, nations, and empires, all the way from Babylon to Rome to the modern world, with a spirit of seduction, corruption, witchcraft, and blood, a spirit that intoxicates the kings of the earth, a spirit that uses sexual perversion as a tool of ritual. And
not all nations have adopted the perversion, right? Like sexual deviancy, right? North America, Latin America, Europe. A lot of what you see, we started seeing the sexual revolution, in the US, right? People are saying, yeah, this was liberation. Liberation from what? From having morals? Yo, do you, okay? I operate in the secular music world as well. So I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and just point fingers at people. Everybody's on their own journey. I've personally never been the one that has been, I don't even like strip clubs. Like, I've never felt comfortable in these environments just because I see what's beyond the surface level of these things. Like, most people that get into that type of life, they could have been doing anything else, but they went there sometimes because of necessity, and it's a quick way to make a buck, or something happened to them. A lot of the time, just because something happened to these girls. And even, I don't know about male places because I've never been to one, but the only time I have been to a strip club, like, those girls look like they were in on something, in order to be able to tolerate being in this environment. So I do believe that sexual freedom is something that, based on my beliefs, is not something that we should really be encouraging in a public setting. But I'm at the same time not going to tell somebody not to do it, because everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's experiencing life in their own way, and not everybody aligns with Christian values, right? And that's fair. If I'm around people that do these things, I won't be around, let's say, at a music video shoot or something like that, where this is happening, right? There's boundaries. I believe I have boundaries when it comes to these things, right? But it is so normalized in our society, to sell sex.
tool for granting power. Say, come on, Nelson. Do you really believe that? Well, if you doubt it, just look what Revelation says about this system. With her, the kings of the earth committed sexual immorality. Do you think it means anything except that? And wow, doesn't that sound like Epstein Island? And she made the inhabitants of the earth drunk. Revelation 17:2. In other words, the inhabitants of the earth don't see it. So do you see the connection? Sexual immorality? Not private, but ritual. Kings of the earth, not random, but elite leadership like presidents and prime ministers. Mystery Babylon is the spirit that controls the nations by controlling compromised kings. The real purpose of the island, when you take all this together, the temple, the high place, the rituals, the powerful visitors, the survivors' testimonies, the ancient symbolism, the secrecy, the global connections, you stop seeing Epstein Island as a criminal hideout and you start seeing it as a spiritual gateway for national level control of this earth, exactly the way the fallen angels did it in the Old Testament. They gain access through human sin, a place where powerful men enter not just into compromise, but into covenantal bondage with these spirits. And you might be saying, no, not our world leaders, not my world leader. Well, how do you think they became world leaders? Do you think they just won it on their own? A place where nations can be steered, influenced, or even ruled by the spirits, just like Daniel 10 describes, because the prince of Persia could influence an empire, and the prince of Greece could rise and fall with Alexander. Why couldn't a modern angel, fallen angel, influence America, Britain, France, Israel, Saudi Arabia, global banking, global media, global government? This is why politicians, media networks, and intelligence agencies want you focused on, the superficial, scandalous aspects of this.
You see that? Like, yo, the media is there to literally distract you, make you focus on different things, make you focus on the gossip, el chisme, la farandula of politics, of all this nonsense. But we're not really seeing what's behind all of this stuff, what's behind the passing of certain laws, you know what I mean? That make no sense, that are detrimental to humanity, right? Because these people in power, they're being instructed, whether literally or by having these spirits plant ideas in their minds of how to destroy the world, from the inside out.
Who flew where, who slept with whom, etc. Because as long as you think this is about sexual crimes, just sexual crimes, you'll never realize this is about spiritual crimes. The real secret isn't what the men did, it's who they did it for, and how this impacts all the nations and the systems of the world. And the moment the public ever grasps that fallen angels still rule the nations and that high places still exist, that Mystery Babylon is still operating, well, the whole system collapses. And think about what happens when they realize world leaders are actively participating in these modern rituals. So the battle was never political, it was always cosmic. Daniel saw it, Paul saw it, John saw it. The rulers of this age are not human. Does your church teach you this? No, they probably don't. But what we're talking about today is not mythology. This is scripture. And this battle is only heating up. The final goal is your soul. The leaders of this age assemble and carry out the plots of the evil angels, which include AI takeovers and transhumanism. Click right here to keep watching and learn how.
All right, so that was the video. If you want to check out the video without my commentary, by all means, I'm going to link it in the video below. Shout out to you, Nelson Walters, for putting together this very, very well put together video, right? I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for people. I'm grateful that YouTube exists. I'm grateful to live in this time and age where even if I don't have the words to be able to explain something to people that I know, somebody else is able to, and I can share their content and react to it and tell you my 2 cents, right? Yeah, it's baffling, and to some people, like, this might be very heavy information. It might be weighing down in your soul a little bit. So just pray, take a step back, ask God to help you understand and not be afraid of what you're hearing about or feel hopeless, because we're not hopeless, right? All of this is done by design. Okay, this is done by design, and the design says that the devil ain't gonna win. The powers of darkness will not win and prevail at the end of the day. So please be very, very careful with what you're into. If you're into modeling, a lot of these girls that I've been hearing about that were victims of Epstein, they got into the modeling agencies. Girls that get into adult filming, they started off innocently, some of them, in modeling agencies, right? They get flown around, right? And that's how you get there, right? So please be very careful, have discernment. Artists, if you're an artist, please be aware of the powers and the rulers of the industry that you're trying to get into. Okay, it's not conspiracy theory, right? You see it all the time. The top artists in the music business end up participating in rituals to these fallen angels. Can you imagine the principality that rules over the music industry, that rules over Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like these are principalities. These are real spirits that run these industries, and that's why it's so dark, right? And that's why they require you to do so much to sell, right? You have to talk about certain things because if you talk about positivity, it won't sell. Why is that? Why is it so normalized that, oh, if I like, there was an interview with Evie Queen talking with Bad Bunny, and she asked Bad Bunny, like she said, she asked him, like, yo, why is your lyrics so like crazy? Like, why are your lyrics so out there? Why don't you say more positive things? And he told her straight up, he's like, because that's not what sells. That's not what the people want to hear, right? They want to hear the depravity. So he's willing, and not just Bad Bunny, but like all the artists that participate in las cochinadas that they say, they are willingly doing it because they know that's what sells, right? So if you know that's what sells, but you know it's wrong, you're participating, right? In what these fallen angels want you to promote to the masses, right? So maybe that'll be a topic for another time. But until then, thank you so much for joining me in this reaction video about Epstein Island and fallen angels from this perspective. If this resonated with you, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share this with somebody who you think has been asking questions. They just don't know what to think. Maybe this will help them a little bit with fitting the pieces in the puzzles that they're trying to put together. Okay, this is stuff you won't hear in the news, people. So please be very careful. Guard your hearts, guard your minds, because this is a real battle out here. A battle for your soul, a battle for your mind, a battle for your peace. All right. So I'm your boy DJ Revelations. Thank you so much for being here. Catch you in the next video. Peace.